Thank you so much for tuning back into my podcast this week. This podcast is made particularly off of a question that I received from the last podcast. Sometimes people reach out and will say things they like, and sometimes it will further on the conversation a little bit. So, this question that was asked basically was, I totally hear you around the avoidance cycle. If you haven't tuned into our last podcast, a lot of it has to do with I talked about a very particular treatment that is helpful for anxiety and being able to work through things and basically going against habitual avoidant strategies that we have when we're trying to grow and move into something that feels more inspiring, but we sort of lean back and we don't kind of push ourselves. Actually, we don't push through some of these big nervous system responses telling us to kind of move away from something we want rather than leaning into it. So the question that the person asked was, yeah, but how do I find the things I'm looking for? How do I find what I'm interested in? Because I'm aware that what I'm doing isn't great, but how do I figure out what's next? And how do I find the courage when I know what it is? Which I thought was such a fabulous question and huge on the level of purpose, of self discovery. I think there's a lot of folks that are very aware that what they're doing isn't working. And some folks are in the camp of, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do next. There's this lack of ideas or inspiration or things on that front. And then we have folks in another camp that are like, I think I know what I want to do, but how do I find the courage to do it? Because so much of being able to have our full freedom and being able to lean into what we want is trusting our ability. But sometimes there's also knowledge or awareness that we're lacking in a way there too, or a particular skill. So this podcast is going to be one, if you're aware that changes need to be made and you, instead of avoiding what you want to lean into it. How do you figure out what you want? Number one. And number two, once you figure it out, how do you get the courage to actually do the thing that you want to do? So, we're going to dive into a little bit of story time here. I went into that in the last podcast, but I'll sort of reiterate a little bit and go farther in. So, last podcast, I talked about really having a strong eye that I developed basically based off of sensitivity and empathy and a lot of this murky boundary energy growing up. I decided that I had really extreme FOMO and I always wanted to be with people. And I really blocked not doing things unless a friend would do it with me. So it was a big step when I was in high school. I got the opportunity in Minnesota. They have something called PSEO where you can actually go to college in 11th and 12th grade instead. You can actually choose to go to a college and get your credits in college instead of going to high school. And so I decided my 12th grade year, I actually just went to college instead, which is really amazing and a really cool opportunity. But it was the first time for me saying, wow, I'm going to leave this community of people that I see between classes and in classes. I'm going to just go to a school where I don't know anyone at all, 17 years old, and sort of challenge myself. And that sort of began that energy. And so not everyone is that go-getter or that confident in a way, or it sounds confident. And I will tell you, sometimes pushing ourselves to go find that perfect other thing, it doesn't always come out of this positive trajectory. It doesn't say, at least for me in that experience, I didn't move towards doing something different out of joy. I did it because I was so uncomfortable where I was that I was hoping for something better. So change sometimes can come through negative reinforcement or it can come through positive reinforcement. A lot of us really want this like inspiration or love or feeling 100% confident. And that doesn't always happen for me. And when I first started the journey to pushing myself, creating this sort of method around finding what I really want and going for it, this was sort of the first chapter where, out of a sense of not feeling enough support in the community that I was in, not feeling inspired enough by the high school I was in, I moved and decided to make a change out of pain, to be honest with you. And so when I got into college, I started feeling better, finding different friend groups, things of that sort. But there was a lot of things I was still very, very afraid of, and I didn't know if they were the right thing. And I have to tell you a story with this because sometimes, in order for people to feel inspired or something is the right thing, it's almost like if we're on one lily pad, we are waiting for the next great thing to be this other lily pad, right? We're waiting and we want them to be right next to each other. We want to like hop off of one lily pad and we want to put them on the other and we want to feel really stable and strong with it. But it's not actually how reality works. A lot of times, in order to get to somewhere else, we have to take a little bit of the fear dip, right? We have to swim through that kind of unknown territory in order to get to the next thing. So I'm jumping a little bit around on timelines here, but so basically in high school, we have this first dip. Out of pain, I decide to do something different and it works out. What I realized years and years and years later, that's a huge key, and I've talked about this a little bit, so this might sound familiar to you. But when I was in graduate school studying Buddhist psychology, I had a teacher that was just this amazing woman. She was barely 5 feet tall, had this like fire red hair with just these big streaks of gray, and she'd been teaching for decades. Really, really lovely woman. And we were in a Buddhist psychology course, I believe the first one. You have to take a few different ones. And she essentially said, I wish people were more stupid. And I asked her to clarify this information because it didn't make sense to me, the concept of I wish people were more stupid. In my mind, I was hoping people were more intelligent, right? Or more aware. And she essentially explained that if we were all willing or able to tolerate not knowing something, right? Or allowing ourselves to be stupid, we would take a lot more risks. But there is so much pressure about how we look or trying to look confident or feeling like we have to know everything. There was a client months and months ago that I was talking to, and they were explaining growing up as a male, there was this energy of always having to look aloof or cool or effortless, or like it didn't take a lot of effort to be able to do things or things that didn't really matter. You had to act like you were just good at things without caring at the same time. And so that's a whole image, right? That's a whole mask, that's a whole energy to really shut down the fear, which we all have, of not being able to do things correctly, of hoping we look a certain way, wanting to be interesting or popular. We all want to feel like we look expert level, right, at everything. So this woman in Buddhist psychology class years later is saying, I wish people were willing to look more stupid. I wish people were willing to take chances out of and take off this pressure of feeling like we have to know everything before we do it, because it really disables our ability to learn, to grow, to put ourselves in creative opportunities, to create new relationships, or to learn something. In order for us to learn something, there has to be an appropriate amount of pressure. It's not just easy all the time. So when I heard her say that, I started thinking back through my memories of how did I use this or not use this when I was first learning about how do I find the things I'm really interested in. So if we go back here timeline wise, right, I'm jumping around a little bit. But when I got into college, I started practicing this. I started feeling that FOMO energy of, wow, here's a lecture or workshop I'd really love to go to. And I want someone to go with me. I don't want to be by myself. I don't want to feel stupid sitting by myself or not knowing everyone. Or what if I don't feel confident enough to say anything? Or what if I have to speak and I don't have the right support, right? All these what ifs. What if, what if, what if, what if, what if? And so my brain would create these future stories that oftentimes wouldn't even happen. So I had to become aware of, what am I making up here that's not real? Because most of us could make a list of 10 things we're interested in that we haven't really tried, or even something we're curious about, or something we want to learn more about, whether it's reading a certain book, right? Or listening to certain music, or even just picking up a guitar, right? Or maybe learning how to take care of plants, right? All these different things. Most of us can come up with some sort of list. But if you, next to that list, you said, how much permission do I have to explore this on my own? A lot of people's what if stories, I don't know enough. I need to do this first. There's all these excuses about how we don't know enough to jump into something because there's this pressure already that we need to be expert. Most of us are very afraid of being mediocre. I'm definitely one of them. The idea of being just normal or average or mediocre at something was a view or a map or a kind of programming in my system that I had to let go of in order to start finding what I really loved. Because if you have the pressure to be perfect before you even try something, it's unlikely that you're actually going to do it. It becomes the excuse, right? So in college, I started practicing this, and I found that there are some communities when you're learning certain skills that are a lot more open to beginners. So I was really, really curious. I'm very nerdy, very on the learning spectrum. And so my first step at starting to take chances were all academic based. So I would go to classes, I would go to online courses, I would read books. There was a lot of this gobbling of information. I would start maybe going to a book circle, right? So it's like this way that we're all studying this particular topic. That felt easy for me to start leaning into. I knew that I loved learning. And I was really into esoteric kind of pieces, right? Like more of the holistic, anything that was health related or meditation related or plant related or nutrition. Maybe I'd want to learn about natural dyeing of clothing. Maybe I would want to learn, trying to think of all the courses I've taken. Maybe I would want to learn about milling flour or the natural plant life around. I really liked all these like tactical learning skills, how to make tinctures. There was this wanting to feel like I had certain skills or could know certain things and maybe help other people with those things. So I didn't necessarily go to a course on how to grind flour because I was going to become a flour grinder. I didn't put that pressure on myself, but I went in thinking, wow, I really love learning. And I didn't realize it at that time, but the people that I was looking for, inspired by, were people that were doing those things. And so I found sometimes it wasn't even the topic that I was going to that I was that interested in, but I knew people that I wanted to be around might be interested in those things. So there's a little bit of a strategy here that I didn't quite realize was happening either. So if I can put this in bullet points towards or for you, one, I had to stop putting pressure on myself around being perfect or knowing that I had to have the information and be good at it before going. So I had to take that pressure off myself, and I did. Number two, I found the medium that felt best for my personality style. Being kind of an introverted extrovert, I didn't want something where it was a gymnastics camp, right? Where I got put on the spot and everyone was watching me. I wanted some sort of medium, and learning or books or information felt like a really easy place for me to start. So I did that, right? And then number three, I sort of said, okay, what are things I want to learn? But when I'm inspired by friends or community or wanting to get into certain things, where do I hear people like that going? Where can I surround myself where I might be learning a skill or getting information about something? But where are the people that I'm interested in connecting with or learning from? Where are they going? So these are three different things that I sort of took into account. And it wasn't conscious, it was something that I just started following in myself. So this type of strategy led me to do so many different things, whether it was, you know, going to the yoga classes, and I was afraid of going to like the hot yoga, really intense, upside down, whatever. So I would go to the yin yoga classes that were like deep stretching and postures, right? I would try some things like that. I would go to book clubs. I started going to women's circles or moon circles, right? Every month when the moon is full, a bunch of women would get together and do rituals together or talk about things. I was curious about natural medicines and making my own tinctures. So I ended up going to those classes or going to workshops where people were fascinated by those things. I started looking into what I wanted to learn on a psychic mediumship level. How did I want to develop those abilities, or how did I want to feel more confident in them? And so I started doing bigger things. I started finding teachers I was interested in and learning from them, and then actually attending their webinars and actually going on their retreats where I'd get on a plane and I would fly to a different state and I would show up in a circle of people that I knew nothing about at all. And it was a moment too when I started doing that that I realized so many other people were also doing that. Sometimes there would be folks with like a few friends maybe there, but a lot of us were just taking risks and chances around hoping we found community and hoping that it would feel right. And so it was also really humanizing because we have this idea that the what ifs, right? We're the one that looks awkward or weird or doesn't know what we're doing. But most of the people that are deciding to do those things are actually at the same level that we are. So it's humanizing in a way. We take away this idea or this concept or this mask that we're putting on ourselves of being the most unprepared in those spaces. I still remember when I went to my first movie by myself, and I went on like a Tuesday at like 2 p.m. and it was hilarious. I like got my popcorn, I got my lemonade or whatever it was, and I like walked into the theater and I looked up and a bunch of people were in there, but everyone was by themselves. It was hilarious. It was all these like single just seats just scattered all over. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is what the people that are not afraid of being alone and maybe have flexible jobs do on a Tuesday at 2 p.m. They go to movies by themselves and they just enjoy a movie by themselves where they're in contact or connection with someone, but they don't need to be sitting next to someone by support. They just like sharing space with people. And it really inspired me. It inspired me about what was possible and how even if you go to something that you're not going with your best friend with, you're still sharing space and learning together. I started realizing that people are not that scary. And like maybe we're getting challenged with that in our current political climate around some people not being great people or maybe being good people that make really poor decisions. But from over here, I started kind of making people less scary or creating stories about how people were going to be mean or frightening. And sometimes we have those built up stories from childhood. If we got bullied or people were mean to us, we have this idea that this might happen. And then as an adult, it rarely happens unless you're in a bar or someone's drinking that someone is really unkind or really mean for no particular reason. So part of, if I can kind of spiral back here, the question that someone asked is, how do I know what I like? It's okay if you don't know what you like. For a long time, I was a career and academic counselor, and I would have so many people come up to me and say, I don't know what I like. I know what my parents do. I know what I'm sort of interested in, but I don't know if it's something I want to commit my full energy to. I'm afraid. And so, oftentimes, to figure out what we really want in life, we have to figure out how we feel. You'll hear me say this a lot. I'm going to say it again. If we don't know what we want in life, you don't have to know the specifics. You just have to figure out how you want to feel. How would you love or want to feel when you're engaging in certain activities? Do you want to be really mentally stimulated? Do you want to be more relaxed? Do you want to be in connection? When you start getting a full sense of how you want to feel, how you want your body to feel, there are certain activities that align with those things, right? Like, I still, as an adult, cannot do a cartwheel. Would it be super cool to learn to do a cartwheel? Yes. I was the other day, I had a friend who goes to like an adult gymnastics class for fun where she learns how to do things. And she was like, oh, you should totally come and do a cartwheel. And I was like, wow, this will be very challenging for me because I'm actually really afraid. I'm actually really afraid of not knowing how to go upside down and having a really tall body. And if I need support, are people tall enough to be able to help me kick my legs over? Like, it might be hysterical. It might be actually really funny. And that's the way that I've been working with it and preparing myself to do something like this is, how can I have fun with this? How can I take the pressure off knowing? How is this more of a skill that can be really fun for me to learn? Or what can I learn out of it around overcoming fear, right? And so there are lots of things. And this is less meaningful, right? Sometimes people want this like purposeful, meaningful thing. But people usually figure out what they want to do, A, by talking to other people. If you're by yourself on a computer, just taking a bunch of quizzes and things, trying to figure out what you should do, we usually get a lot of creativity from other people. We get a lot of inspiration from other people. So if I don't know what I want to do or I'm curious about things, I know that the first thing I need to do is be in community and talk to other people because you get a lot of ideas and people have a lot of puzzle pieces for us. So, one, if you don't know what you want to do, think about how you want to feel. Feel into your nervous system. How do I want to experience things? What would I like to feel like? How would I like to be inspired? Right? That's a big question as well. How do I find inspiration? What do I feel like when I'm inspired? What things already inspire me in my life? What are things that out of 0 out of 10 maybe hit at a 7 or higher? And they don't have to be the perfect thing. Again, if you make everything, okay, it has to be the perfect thing, you're not going to do anything. You're not going to do anything at all. There are tons of stories I have where I end up going to a workshop that maybe wasn't the perfect thing. So, for an example, say for instance, in the past, I go to a journeying workshop with lots of drums, things like that. And we're going into journey spaces, more of these dream, etheric, kind of quantum level spaces. And say it's really fun, but maybe the teacher does okay. And maybe I'm like, okay, I've done this before. I was trying to hope for more learning or a bigger experience. Maybe that doesn't happen. But a lot of times for me, when I go to those spaces, there's a puzzle piece that I get, whether it's sitting next to someone and talking about something, whether it's at a bookstore and then I find a really cool book. There's kind of a silver lining of when you take a risk. If you decide to take a risk or take a chance, you are always going to learn something, but your perception about things being full of possibility of learning really helps bring those things to you. So I tell this story sometimes to people and they laugh because when I used to work as a clinical mentor for young adults, I would watch their reality and their perception of reality literally come true in front of them. An example of that was I was meeting a kid at a college and we were going to meet with their academic advisor and they were really confused about how they were doing. And I said, okay, we're going to meet at your academic advisor's office at 9 a.m. So I parked my car. I walked in through the door. I went around and I sat on the office and I was looking out the window. 2 minutes later, the client I was working with rolls up, parks their car, tries to walk through the same door, and is locked. Like I'm literally watching them and they can't open the door. And I was like, that's weird. So I walk down the hallway, I walk over to the door and I open it and it's unlocked. There's nothing wrong with the door. It didn't stick, it wasn't locked, but for some reason, this person literally couldn't walk through the same door that I walked through. And it was weird because it mirrored their reality. They had this constant sense that the world was out to get them, that things don't work out, kind of the Murphy's Law energy. If something bad will happen, it will. They carried that around with them all the time. And granted, they had gone through hard things, right? So sometimes that Murphy's Law or that feeling is because it literally feels like our reality. I am not the person that can honestly say that life, everything has gone perfect. I've had my moments that have been really dark and sad and depressing, feeling like life's not meeting me. I've gone through struggling hard things, but I've also learned that if I take the perspective that everything bad can and will happen, it starts getting created. It literally shapes our reality and we only get certain meanings out of things. So I'm always checking my reality when I go down into those places because my reality will start recreating itself. If I'm angry and all of a sudden I'm driving, someone angry driving next to me will cut me off. Like it's just fascinating sometimes how our energy field and our emotions draw certain energies towards us. So, for instance, with this particular example, it's like our reality can draw those things in. And so, if you take the reality of as you're searching for things in yourself or trying to find things that you like that there's not really out there, you might not be good at it, there's nothing that's going to be right for you, right? All the perspective that good things don't exist, that's what you're going to create. You actually have to take chances and you have to go into each experience of, okay, if it doesn't go perfectly well, how am I going to interpret it? How am I going to learn something from this, right? One of the questions I like to ask myself when something hard happens is, okay, this was a big teaching moment. How am I going to choose to respond? A lot of our power in life comes from choosing how we respond. We can't always create the perfect situation, but when you choose to respond in a happier, more empowered, rooted, I trust myself way, you create a lot of strength in yourself. And it's huge for being able to take chances and do this again. So there's a little bit of insight on how do you choose something, and B, how do you find the confidence to do it? Say you actually know what you want to do, but you don't feel confident enough in doing it. Big thing you're going to hear me say over and over, you have to take the pressure off yourself to be perfect. You have to take pressure off yourself that you know what you're doing, and you have to humanize other people because most people showing up don't know how to do those things either, right? So there is a way here. There are lots of different ways actually to find what you want to do, but none of it is usually through avoidant behavior. None of it is just laying back and waiting for something to come. Everyone loves that idea that they just like sit back and they wait for the perfect thing to be dropped there. It's what all the movies tell us, right? Or like the perfect relationship things. They say, like, yeah, just go ahead and wait. Just go out throughout your day and like the perfect thing is going to be dropped there. I would say like 5 or 10% of the people I see that happens, and it doesn't happen consistently. It doesn't happen in relationships. It doesn't happen in the perfect career. Sometimes things walk up to us and literally it's almost like they punch us in the face. They're like, "Hello, I'm right here." But I rarely see people when that happens. It happens early on. A lot of times it's a lot of waiting or trying new things, and all of a sudden something pops up. So it's a little bit of an illusion that our society, that our movies, that our media tell us that the perfect thing just finds you. It's the people that are willing to fail the most that actually get the farthest in life. I remember when I heard that one time, I had to sit with it. The people who fail the most get the farthest, because when you fail at something and you do it in a really good way, you realize what you did wrong or could have done better. You pick yourself up and you go towards that thing with the awareness, and you fix what you did, and then you succeed. So by you being willing to say, it's okay if I fail at this, you take all pressure, you give yourself lots of permission, you bring creativity, you bring learning in. If you take all the pressure off yourself for it to be perfect, you get your freedom and you get to act in an authentic way. So again, this episode is all based off of people out there. Maybe you're one of those people too that wants to do different things in life. Maybe you can feel yourself falling into the behavior where your nervous system gets scared about doing something new. And so you lean back and you avoid it through certain habitual things. And then it reinforces this feeling that you're not strong enough or that you can't do hard things. And it's simply not true. You've just created this kind of sticky glue that you fall into about doing the same thing over and over again. So you feel comfortable, but bored and not empowered. And so these are ways or bullet points or concepts or skills or even the ways to think about things to move yourself to lean forward into things you're curious about, into identifying how you want to feel, identifying where people you're inspired by, what are they doing? What activities are they in? And then bringing yourself to those places so you can find community and support. There are lots and lots of ways to meet your own needs and to bring inspiration, authenticity in. It's all there. It's all possible. And sometimes you do it in layers, right? Last week, I talked about my first step literally doing things by myself was learning how to eat a Chipotle burrito by myself. It was learning how to go to a place and not just be, my whole head in a cell phone the whole time, just ignoring, but putting my cell phone down or leaving it in the car and eating a burrito and just being with myself and learning how to work with the energy of being alone. And from there, working off being actually really happy being alone, being excited to be alone, being inspired by being alone. I learned how to love me. I learned how to love, it was hilarious, my internal environment. And I want that for everyone. Can you imagine if everyone in our world loved themselves so deeply that they were like, oh, I'm so excited to go get a coffee by myself. I love my thoughts. I love how I envision things. I love how I learn. That's possible without being full of yourself, without being insincere. We should love this vessel that we're in. This body, it takes so much maintenance sometimes, right? To feed it, to listen to it, at least have fun with it, at least enjoy it, right? We don't want to be fighting ourselves our entire life. We want our full freedom, right? We want our full authenticity. So I hope this helps you if you're a person that's been sitting with the question of, I'm aware of what's not working and I want to change my habits or I want to try something new, but how do I figure out what that is? And B, if I figure it out, how do I find the confidence? These are some really, really helpful tips and personal stories from me about how to get there and how to do that. Thank you so much for watching my podcast this week. And as always, sending so much love.